Welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori la Bey, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about dementia change. We will.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Lori la Bey with Alzheimer Speaks, and I'm thrilled you can join us today. We are going to be talking with Mary Fridley, who is really the head kahuna of Reimagine Dementia, and she's just done some marvelous work. So please stay with us because there's ways that you can participate and be part of this collaboration, and you will learn so much. They have some great resources for people and some really fun activities as well. But before I pull Mary in, I always like to mention to our audience to please go to alzheimerspeaks.com. We have so many free educational resources there for you. If you're looking for a memory cafe or you want to become dementia friendly, we've got the radio show, dementia chats, dementia quick tips, dementia in the arts. We've got a poetry section and so much more. And maybe you have something that you'd like to have published, and you can submit that to me to do, or maybe you want to be a guest. We also have our sister company, Dementia Map, which is global resources, and that's free to use. You don't have to make a membership for either site, and that is just dementiamap.com. So check that out as well. Let's go ahead and pull Mary in. Well, Mary, it's so great to have you back with us. I always learn so much, and you and your group are doing so many cool things, and you seem to have your fingers and toes in a lot of different directions, but yet very solid in terms of making the world a better place. So thanks for taking the time to be with us.
My absolute pleasure.
Good. My, when I do these interviews, I always do them kind of in a conversational format, but I always like to start by having you tell people if you've been personally touched by dementia in your own family or circle of friends. That kind of gives people a little basis.
Yeah, I have actually. My mom actually passed away from late stage dementia. Oh gosh, I just realized her anniversary just came up, so I think it's been about 7 years ago. I now more of my friends, some of my dear friends have been diagnosed. I think I'm of the age, and we're of an age where I'm also just getting many more people reaching out to me just because they have friends. And so given that dementia has been a big part of my life, which we'll talk a bit more about in a minute, for about a decade now, I'm kind of the person people come to, so I hear about it all the time.
Yeah, being that kind of fix-it person, compassionate person.
Yes.
Here's my shoulder, here's the Kleenex. Let's get to it.
And also I think, which I feel very touched by, because then we'll touch on this, but a lot of my work, both through the Joy of Dementia, You Gotta Be Kidding, and Reimagining Dementia, Creative Coalition for Justice, which we'll talk more about. I've been adamant, and really for much of my 45, 50 years as an activist, community builder, play advocate, I have no use for the tragedy narrative of dementia. I simply think it's wrong. I think it's deeply mistaken. I think it's a myth. I think that we could talk a lot about what the pain and the emotionality and the upsetness and the uncertainty of dementia and so many other conditions. I don't think all of that makes it a tragedy in the sense that then people are so completely dehumanized. So I think I feel touched because I think folks also come to me because my feeling is then let's work together to create as much community around you as you can. So I'm not the person that kind of says, oh my God, that's terrible. I feel for them. I know what it's like to go through it. But I think it's also helpful for people to come to someone who knows a lot of good people. That's what I feel very, very, very privileged is I know so many good people who I can then refer folks to or introduce them to and trust that it's going to be a very different experience. And that to me is a big deal.
It's a huge deal. I got into this space really for the same kind of philosophy as you.
Yeah.
I was working in real estate at the time. I was doing a lot of education of seniors, and then my mom got dementia, and talking with my peers, kind of telling them what I was doing. And they were the ones that encouraged me to step into this space because they said,
that's wonderful.
They said, you're not doom and gloom and just give me your money.
Exactly.
Are living and breathing and teaching people how to live graciously alongside the disease, which I think is very possible. But we have to change. We have to
change. I couldn't have said it better. I agree. And a lot of our work and my work is on, okay, we need some new tools, some new environments in which, so that we can change. Because in a way, I don't know how dementia has been created, so to speak. I think has more to do with us than the objective disease. I think we've made it a problem. And again, we can touch on more of that, but I so appreciate what you're saying, both that you exist, because I know you've done such a magnificent job of creating this whole network, and I know I've benefited from it, and so many people have, but also that, I think I don't know, don't tend to be a Pollyanna. No one's ever accused me of that, but I do think there is a genuine shift. I don't think that people want the same old anymore. And fortunately, there now exists a growing network community of people who, the best we can respond to that. So anyway, I appreciate it and thank you.
Yeah, I think we got here because years and years ago, for years and years and years, the patient and the family weren't considered part of the equation. No one ever asked us what we needed or what we wanted. And I think disease as a whole is monetized. And in order to monetize and make more money, then you create fear. And I think that's what you and I and so many are trying to bust out, is it does not have to be this scary. There's a lot of blessings wrapped in this journey if we slow down and kick fear to the curb, and not that we shouldn't feel it, because I think you have to feel all emotions, but don't get stuck in it.
Oh, I agree. In fact, I think, and again, this is a little bit out of context, but for example, I lead the Joy of Dementia, you got to be kidding, which is very much a play, improvisational play, performance-based workshop and conversation series that I've been doing now for about 9 years. And really, one of the most important discoveries that we've made in that is, and it's not that we were averse to this happening, but it's not as if we were planning for this. But I think what's emerged is that, and I think it's in part because I also come from a group therapy, community building background. So I work hard to bring very different kinds of people together, to create something, to play together, to do something new. And I think it frees people up. But one of the things that I think it frees people up is to be much more emotional. Mm-hmm. And to say the things that they don't feel like they can say in the course of life. For whatever reasons, that's different for different people. And as we were talking about earlier, I very much experienced with my mom. It was an incredibly emotional time. I freely say it was one of the most soul-wrenching emotional times of my life, for many reasons, including that I was the primary care partner and I was a long-distance care partner. So there were stresses and strains. My mom, I can talk more about her, but one of the things I learned, and I've been writing more about it, is that simply because something is so jarringly emotional doesn't make it tragic. Because I think the emotionality and sharing and giving the emotionality and having it and just be emotional is actually, I think that's how we can come together. I think the imposition of tragedy, which to your point has everything to do with the medical model, I think it has to do with our current, modern culture. There's a lot of things that go into it. But I think as soon as it begins getting related to as a tragedy, not only does the person living with dementia almost immediately become a problem, but we're stifled. We're actually I think it creates more distance between us and others. And there's not much of a place or a space or an environment for even saying, yeah, we're afraid. And how do we want to be afraid together? Because I think my concern is often we stop at, oh, people are afraid, and that's why they stop being friends with someone or leave their life. And again, I have no judgments. People decide how to handle something the way they decide to handle something. I've made less than great choices in my life sometimes. However, in a way, in the work that I do and so many of the people I work with now do, is at least let's come together and say, well, how do we want to do it? Yes, we're afraid. So might that mean? What kind of support do we need to get? Like, in a way, to your point earlier, taking some responsibility that we're a part of it. And so, yes, maybe we need to get more support. Maybe we need to grow in some ways. Maybe we could play a particular role, but not another role. That's fine. Not everyone can do the same. But I think it would both immediately start to create community, but also I just think it leaves people less alone, including the primary carers who, as you know well, and we've both been in that. I mean, it can just be lonely and stressful and, impossible. And I really genuinely believe it doesn't have to be. And we need the tools and support that it can actually allow us to do that. Because that's not something that we do naturally. It's not normal. We're much more inclined to do things ourselves and tough it out. And you can't bother your friends. You can't. And I understand all that. However, right now, and I think particularly with dementia, it just isn't helping, and it's probably hurting you.
Yeah, you said a lot of things there that I agree with, and I think again our medical system, and people may disagree with me, which is fine, but I would say a lot of people these days will say is not about better health necessarily or prevention, right. And the quality isn't where it used to be. But I also think it started out with this mindset of we'll go to the doctor and he'll fix it. I mean, I think of my parents who are since gone. They didn't question the doctor. It was like, okay, whatever you say, that's what it is. And then we had the mentality of the government will support, whatever. And so if we don't need it, then the government's not going to support it. And then then it fell to family, and then it was this secret because we weren't taught how to talk about it. And now we're in this space where kind of, in my opinion, the greater good's coming together. We're able to communicate with people all around the world who are going through this process, feeling, seeing, and dealing with it in many different ways, and sharing what works, what doesn't work, how they feel, the good, the bad, the ugly, because I don't think we can move through it if we're not authentic about what it's really like. But then we'll never get the help that we need. And so what excites me and what I found when I stepped into this was I didn't have funding, and I wasn't a grant writer, and that was not my world. So I did everything on a shoestring budget, and I was shocked how cheap I could get stuff done, honestly, or for nothing, and how supportive people were, even if it's not money, but with their time and their contacts. And to me, that's one of the most authentic places to go, because they really care and they're vested. It's not they're doing it because their boss told them they had to, or they're getting a paycheck. That's a whole different level of service. And sometimes lack of, I'll be quite honest with that, because not everybody likes their job. And we've all been on committees where someone has been assigned because their position sounds like a good fit, but their personality and their work ethic might not.
Right. I think what you're saying is so important, because no, I actually, my heart sinks, and this is I'm picking up on a little bit of what you said. I agree with everything. But my heart sinks And I was having a conversation with a colleague in the UK, a coalition member. And I realized I should probably say what the coalition is at some point, because where I was love to think everyone listening to us knows, probably not true. However, we were speaking. And she was talking, she's a researcher, but they had created just a remarkably impactful program for the community. And it just had done very well. People loved it, came to it, supported it. And then the funding ran out and it stopped. It ended. And for her, which I appreciated, she was raising just the morality and the ethics of ever doing that again. Because, and I know this, I make my living as a nonprofit fundraiser. So I know from the nonprofit field, I know the pressures. But to your point, I don't think we should make it all about funding or create the illusion that if you don't have funding, you can't do anything. That to me is the most pernicious to what you said. Because bringing people together, inviting people to come together to create something doesn't require money. I mean, there's so much we can do, but I think it almost becomes I think it conservatizes us, and in some cases, people literally don't think they can do things without money. And again, I'm not opposed to money. I wish more money were going to the right things, believe me. However, I don't agree, and I think to your point, there isn't much we can do, including looking for different sources of support. Maybe we need to kind of move outward rather than upward. But I just think what you're saying is so important, because in a way, if money had been the issue, nothing that I'm currently doing would exist. Believe me, it would not exist, especially Reimagining Dementia Coalition.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I still get a lot of people coming to me about memory cafes, and I do a lot of mentoring with that. And I can't tell you, Mary, how many people they're the gopher, they're the researcher. Oh, yeah. Gosh, this sounds really cool. I wish I could be involved. And I'm like, well, why can't you? You already are.
Right.
And they're like, well, I'm not a nurse, or I'm not a social worker, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. And I'm like, you don't have to be. They don't want a medical model. They're not looking to go to the doctor. They're looking for friendships and peers. And I can tell the passion in the voice. They said there's a few key things you have to know. And probably one of the first is that it's okay to say you don't know.
That's a lovely yes.
And working together and asking. It's not about you having all the answers. It's about the group collective troubleshooting this and supporting this, or researching whatever it might be, and allowing everyone to really feel valued and be able to participate. And when you have that, the impact I think your group has is much more massive. I mean, I look at Norms McNamara with the Purple Angel, who was told that would never go anywhere, and it's all over. I look at you with Reimagining Dementia and how massive your group has gone, and the countries that you're in, and the variety of people that are part of the coalition, and the numbers of people that you serve. That's because you've allowed people to participate. You're a listening post. You're not just a talking post. You're a listening post to hear what is it that we want to do, what is it that we need. And I think the what is it do we want to do is really important, because I don't think that gets asked in a lot of organizations. It's told.
I agree.
And when you ask, and the group can prioritize, and people, I know in our dementia friendly group in Roseville that I don't participate much anymore, just because I can't with time. But we would always ask ourselves, okay, this is real, because we'd get so excited. I mean, that excitement was, palpable. And then we go, okay, can we really physically, emotionally do all that we want to do? And then we'd have to, cut it down and put some on a parking lot board and go, okay, we're going to go here so we're all sane, and that we can still continue to be members of the group and not burn ourselves out. That self-regulation, I think, is so critical too.
I do too. And I think creating environments in which people, and this sounds, I know it's going to sound a little esoteric, so bear with me. But one of the things I was thinking, because I think that what you said was just so lovely and so apt. One of the things I agree with you. I think one of the things that's been very important for me in my work, and many people, I'm not alone, I've been inspired by many, and I could talk about that, is to always invite people to create it together.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the message is, we don't care where it goes. What we create is what we create, because we're real people. We have real foibles. We're we have shortcuts. I mean, we can do what we can do. However, one of the important things that I've discovered in terms of then supporting people to grow as they're doing that, because I think it's an enormously growthful experience. And when you're right, we don't have very often, because we're often told we have to toe the line, we have to do it the right way, blah, 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 blah. But having the experience of it doesn't have to be either or. So it's not the case that you have to do everything or you can do nothing. And I think that that's important because, and as I think about it, and so I was thinking about talking to you, maybe it's the difference between continually asking how, in addition to but I think a lot of the work of caring in particular, but also to your point, the industrialization of disease and dementia and health, because there is an industry now. Mm-hmm. And is that it too quickly becomes about how to. Here's the advice. Here's the right way. Here's the right way to age. Here's the right way to have cancer. Here's the right way to be, live with dementia. Here's the right way to be care. And people are well-meaning, and some of the things that are offered are fine. I found them helpful. But I think in the absence of allowing more space for how, okay, now we've learned some things. How do we now want to go forward? And so it's never about these ideals, so you never have to feel bad. Believe me, if somebody had told me where the coalition was going to be now, I wouldn't have believed them. I mean, we had no idea what we were doing, and that was the fun of it for me. And I think it helps that there are people who genuinely enjoy not knowing, because that's hard. You live in there's a lot of pressure to know things in this world, and certainly if you're someone's life or is in your hand, there's a lot of pressure. To me, that simply says, let's expend more energy to support each other, to be creative, to take some risks, to fail, to try this, to try that. Oh, somebody new's come along. What do they bring to the table? Let's utilize that. Yeah, some things we might not be able to do in the way we thought. Can we do it? And so who else might we look to? But it's always a creative activity in the way that I think really artists look at things and take the available materials and you create something. Will everyone like it? I don't know, not all. I mean, if people look at the art behind me, maybe it's for some people, maybe it's not, but it was still, that's why I love collage. And the collage happened to be done by my very good friend and the late Dr. Susan Mossad, who helped found the Joy of Dementia and Reimagining. So it's a special connection. But she loved collage, and I think it was because in the spirit of what we're talking about, it's the taking of stuff that is thrown away and creating something beautiful with it. And it's kind of poking at these often the kind of societal assumptions that we can't create with the ugly, the sad, the fearful. And yes, we can, and we need to create those support environments, which is a lot what I think you're talking about, and certainly something that I think many people are doing around the world. And it's modestly what we're trying to do with the Joy of Dementia and the Reimagining Dementia Coalition.
Yeah, you mentioned the house, and I think one of the things that I like with your group too is you kind of start with the whys. Why
Right.
is this needed? Because
Right.
there's a lot of companies outside of dementia that don't ask the why. It's just like, this is what we've always done, so this is what we're going to do it. This is how we've always done it, so this is how we're going to do it. And it's not, the bed in the bag or everything in the box is here. This is the criteria. And this is the only way to do it. Like you said, this is how you do it well. Well,
Yeah.
well is different, and well and good is different for everybody. And so if we
Oh,
don't
I
take
agree.
that in, and what I love about the coalition, which I'm going to have you define and tell people about in just a minute,
Okay.
is, it comes from a creative side. And
Yeah.
so it exposes people to something that they're really not aware of in a friendly fashion.
Yeah.
And then they're shocked by the power of it,
Yes. I agree. I
and
think that's
how it
true.
moves
I
them.
think that's true.
And then I also loved when you said failure's okay. This isn't checking boxes to
No, really.
to win, win or lose and burn people out, and knowing that, hey, we tried it, it didn't work. And maybe you're not going to chuck the idea. Maybe you're just going to massage it a little bit or put it on the table for a while until the timing is right. Because sometimes you have a really good concept, but the timing's just not
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
so, I personally have kind of kicked failure and protection or perfection to the curb, because I
Good.
think they
Well,
are. I think they are very harmful terms in
they are.
our
I
world,
agree.
because
I agree.
perfection happens once and we can kind of recreate it and get it close. But I'm sure every time you do a play, it's a little bit different,
It is.
even though, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I used to direct theater. I don't so much anymore. And I've heard, I love actors, so I've heard actors talk about this a lot. I mean, if you're in a 2-year run of a play, but it's true of any play, even if it's 2 days, it's always being created. I think and I don't know that people in the audience always see that, but you're always looking for fresh ways to say something. What can you discover? And I think it's that spirit of discovery is what you're talking about. Because I think, can we allow ourselves to just discover some things, be surprised, not worry about what's going to happen to it? Like, we don't have to label and then assess everything. Let's just discover some things about each other, about our world. And that to me is what the joy is. So why don't I say a little bit about the coalition? Just
I think it's time.
It seems like now everybody's just wondering. Well, immediately, Reimaging Dementia, Creative Coalition for Justice. We're about 3 years old. We have over 1,150 members in probably 50 countries. And we reach many more through our website. And so I think our reach internationally is broader. So that's the facticity of it. And it's a very, it involves anybody who wants to be a part of this creative conversation. People living with dementia, care partners, advocates, artists, allies, but anybody who walks in off the street, and if they want to be a part of reimagining dementia, then we welcome them. So there's no criteria. There's not a test for who belongs and who doesn't. It's open, and I think that to your point has been one of the loveliest features of it. And as I said, we've kind of created it as we've gone along. And this, about 3 years ago, we started a campaign called Taking It to the Streets. And we've just completed our 3rd campaign in October. And I was thinking today that I don't often talk about how that came to be, but I thought I wanted to share it because it really was. I was headed to the UK to do some coalition activities. And I think it was either the day I landed or the day I took off, I don't remember. There was that horrific shooting in Kentucky at a gay bar. And I was just, as somebody who was part of the LGBT community, but just as a human being, I was obviously upset. And I don't know, maybe a day later, I read it was probably an op-ed or a guest column, something in the Times about it. And it quoted one of the people who'd been in the bar, who obviously survived. And she said something like, and I'm not doing the quote, word by word, but she said, well, if we can't gather here, if we can't come here, where can we go? And honestly, the word that popped to mind, and it wasn't like I was thinking about it, but the word that popped to mind was community. We've got to go to the community. that I understand if you're a person or part of a group that feels, I mean, there's so many groups now that feel unheard. I mean, I think the groups are growing. I think the majority now are people who feel unheard, unwelcome, unimportant, attended to, et cetera, et cetera. But, but we also have those subgroups and all that. But I've never felt, even though I understand the urge, that I've just never felt that the best way to deal with shame or stigma or bias or fear or violence is to hide or to hide people away. And I think, and we often do it thinking that that's what's going to protect them. I don't think it's very protective. I think it still leaves us in fact, one might argue it leaves us more vulnerable. And I think that extends, and I've carried that with me and think about it a lot relative to people living with dementia and cognitive decline. Because I think and again, I'm not saying everybody does this. There have been enormous reforms in this conversation, but they still tend to be hidden away or protected. And I feel strongly, and this was very much the energy that everyone, and we had 25 or so co-founders. So it was by no ways me, because we took seriously that we had to see if this was even something people wanted to do. So to your point before, it's not like we announced, there's going to be a coalition, and this is how we invited people and said, hey, we think, and it was during COVID, we think this is a moment we need to respond in a dramatically different way. A more communal way, a more creative way, a more grassroots way. And unfortunately, people responded, and it's emerged, and people have taken it on. And the life it has is the life our members and others have given it. And I think what we've learned is one, people were looking for a place to go, because often if you are doing something outside the box or more innovative or more radical, whatever you want to call it, it's just a little different, or you often are doing it alone and you think you're alone. I mean, and certainly the industries that have dominated the dementia conversation is not the creative community. We are not right up there when it comes to how do we shape this conversation, and we thought we should be, but we were the ones that were going to have to take that shot. So really but it was also an effort to say, we're coming out. We're not going to do this quietly and within the sanctioned settings. That in a way, taking it to the streets was an invitation to our members and allies and anyone who wanted to go talk to strangers, create a conversation, an event, an activity, a post, whatever you can do. But talk to strangers, because our feeling was, hey, there's millions of people impacted by dementia. We know that all over the world. So chances are, if you go outside, even if you just stood on the street corner with a little sign, which some of our members did, I don't know, 6 out of 10 people you met probably are impacted by dementia. So we kind of thought, hey, this isn't going to be searching for a needle in a haystack. But let's be out there, because they're not going to come to our organizations. They're not going to listen to we need to also be there and recognize that this is something we all relate to. It really isn't this, in a funny kind of way, it's not special. Millions of people relate to it, and yet there's this kind of cone of silence. So all of that came together, and it was just like, let's bring this out of the closet. It's not a dirty word. People are living with it, and they need to know that something else exists. And so I'll close, but one of our members, it's wonderful that she showed it was in Washington State, and she created a showing of a film, but it's a lovely film. It's something to do with drinking and dementia. Wine and dementia.
Wine, women, and dementia.
Yes. Anyway, but they just had a community gathering, small town, and it was very lively, very conversational, and obviously there were people who are part of our resources and part of the health community. And so people were, being urged to seek appropriate care, testing, whatever. But the member who hosted it was telling me that she got an email the next day from one of the women there, a woman who participated, who said she had set up an appointment, but the reason she did it is because she now knows there's a community. And I think that's, to me, that was the most touching thing about it, because I think if we can create just a broader space for I don't know, joy, creativity. This is real. This is something we can touch. This is something we can be with together. And it's not, it doesn't have to be paralyzing. It can actually be, as you said, there's all sorts of things we can do with it, including the emotionality of it. But to me, I think the woman was saying, well, now I know this isn't going to be the most frightening, alone thing I've ever tried to do in my life. Like, why would anyone go if you thought that, if you only believe what the industry was saying? Like, you wouldn't. I mean, yeah. No, yeah, good. I'm going to be told to go home and die. Like, what in anyone's world thinks that that's a motivator for anybody? I don't care if you have dementia or not. If you're continuously told only the negative and what not to, and that the very thing is going to isolate you as a human being, well, I don't know. I don't think that's going to impact very well. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. That to me is the essence of not only taking it to the streets, but reimagining dementia. Because I was thinking the other day that I mean, it's called Reimagining Dementia for a reason. And I love it, and I've been so touched by this work. And in a way, though, to your point earlier, and also what you were saying, it's about reimagining living. It's a reimagining who we are as human beings. It's reimagining care and what it even means to be caring. Who are the carers? Who are the cared for? Are those being cared for have no capacity to be caring? Does the carer only, they can never be cared? You know what I mean? Like, it's just tapping into the richness of our actual lived experience and just playing with everything and saying, and who knows where we land. Maybe we land back on, yeah, some of this works, some of it doesn't. That's fine. But if we're going to reimagine, I think it's like giving people in a way a space, an environment, permission to reimagine anything and everything they want to do, including how to be caring. Because I think, my gosh, and you know this well, the minute somebody gets diagnosed, and I don't care what it's with, we go into a certain care mode. And it's usually a care mode that's overly focused on the person with the condition. It kind of removes them from any kind of human, it's like one day they're all of these complex things, and then they have this condition, and now suddenly they are no longer part of the world. So I don't know. It's just, my feeling is, let's play with it all. Mm-hmm. It's not a prescription. It's playing and being creative in the ways that we were talking about.
Well, when you were talking about the shame and the stigma and the violence, I was taking some notes, and I'm like, yeah, and then that leads to, loneliness and isolation and fear. And then that leads to really being unhealthy in your life, because it leads to depression and all kinds of stuff where people don't feel safe. And I don't care what it is. And, I look at the increase of bullying, and then to me, what happens is those people sometimes can almost recycle into being the shamers, creating the stigma, because that's their pushback. And it seems like we're just elevating things where you're looking at, you just mentioned even, can the person you're caring for not care back? I mean, and so many people think that because of the words we use, like caregiver says, I'm giving it all away, I'm not getting it back.
Exactly.
So I've actually broken the word out, and I really try to get people to use care partner and care companion, which I know many of your members do too. But I've broken it out to CAR e-givers, and CAR stands for conscious awakening of relationships. And the e-givers is about our emotional giving. And I don't think we give that enough weight, because people just want to feel heard and seen and, part of. And so often we are just doing tasks like you said, when somebody gets diagnosed, it's like, okay, we're going to fix this. We come up with a task.
Exactly.
And now they're not a person anymore. They're a task.
Right.
No.
Well, yeah. Oh, I agree. And I mean, we go, and everybody does. I'm not talking about just medical professionals. I'm not picking on them. I think that training can, I mean, obviously they're more steeped in it. They paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to, so it probably carries more weight. But I know even in my own life, if a friend has something going on, my initial pull is to try to fix it. And then I kind of, and then I think, oh, wait, if I'm trying to fix it, then I'm making, in a way, I don't care what your intent is, you're making them a problem. You really are. And I don't think we should fool ourselves that, oh, no, it's really just the particular concern. No, you're making them, because otherwise, why wouldn't the activity be, to your point, the car ring? Why wouldn't you co-create how it is you want to be caring together? Like, does it make the most sense for the person with the condition to be the one to receive? I don't know. That's not, I mean, I did therapy for many years, group therapy. And it was an approach, social therapeutic approach, that actually explicitly, in some sense, I kind of discovered that actually in a world that's all about getting, and we live in a very getting culture. That's, in fact, often it's the pinnacle, the more you can get. And again, I don't just mean accumulating wealth, although that's fully on display. I just mean we feel like that what we're here to do, the better the getter you are, and something's wrong with you if you're not a very good getter. And we would always say, well, actually, what we're going to work together to do is to give, to continuously give without the expectation of getting. And that really was all about what the groups and the people together were doing. And that is hard. Because it goes against everything, and particularly in therapy, people can understand when we go, oh, I need to get help. You don't understand. I need, and we'd say, yes, I know you're in pain. It turns out what we've discovered is that this is actually how you can grow. And in growing, you begin to, it's not like everything disappears. The world does not, it's that your ability to navigate it in ways that aren't so paralyzing and confining and destructive increases greatly, and you're better able to create your life. And that includes all kinds of stuff that's going to be painful and upsetting, and it's not a magic elixir, but it is more focused on how can you continue growing. And I think particularly development and growth, unfortunately, just isn't a word. They're not words that are used often in dementia or aging.
Yeah.
You just throw them out the door.
I think too, when you're talking about giving, when you use your pain, because you've been there, done that, and maybe you're still processing it, you're, I always tell people when they come to a support group, because the support groups can be really intimidating for people to step into.
Oh, sure.
Is remember, you are always going to be 5 steps behind somebody and 5 steps ahead of somebody else. It's a give and a take. So don't think you have to be like this person or achieve this amount of whatever you have created in your head. We all have something to give. And when we are able to give that freely and ease the pain of somebody else or ease the process or whatever it is, that makes us feel good too, along with them. And that's better than a lot of pills that are out there.
I agree, and that we don't relate to or even demand that people who are in pain or that they be givers and that they give. I genuinely can't comprehend that. I think that is ultimately so dehumanizing. And I don't care what they give. The issue is, in a lot of ways, in the Joy of Dementia work we do, we use a lot of improvisational play. And again, I don't expect everyone in the audience to know what improv is, but the basic tenet of improv is yes and. So yes, you accept whatever people say or do as an offer. And then you and the ensemble, the group, our responsibility is to take it somewhere new, to build with it, and to make everyone look good. So it's not about individual brilliance. It's not about saying clever things. It's okay. And what's wonderful, and I think particularly valuable for the dementia work, but I by no means think only here, is that a lot of what's offered doesn't have to be verbal, and it doesn't have to make sense. Because I think we can get it in our head that, oh, there's the right thing to say, or we've still got to say or give the right thing. No, I mean, give whatever, and then because it then becomes a collaborative responsibility on what we do with that. And it's just so freeing, and it just upends, it just takes because being an individual takes a lot of work. To not be part of, to kind of hold everything to yourself, and to think that I've got to know this, and I've got to do this, and I'm the one who has. I don't care who you are, you be the care or the king. Oh my gosh, that's hard. When there's so much more creativity, and again, it's. I know I can hear somebody go, "Well, you can't do this here." Maybe not. You can do it in a lot of other places. And I think it's just we're trying to help people kind of just, I don't know, shift in a way where you can even see that's possible. Because I think it's, to your point, it's even seeing that it's possible that I think is the triumph, honestly. Then you can go from there. But, oh my gosh, people, I genuinely feel it just makes life so much harder.
Well, I think part of what you're doing and part of what I'm doing and so many others is, this patient advocacy, which really wasn't even a term, back in the day. But getting in the driver's seat and going, I remember when I started my company, I committed, I'm going to make a difference, big or small. I don't know what it's going to look like, but somebody's got to start to, change the course of this ship.
Yes,
because it's not working as well as it should be, in my opinion. And I found a lot of people aligned with that, just like you're seeing so many people align with what you're doing. And I think leading by example and people seeing the voices. I mean, I think of the conversations I've had with people with dementia and, panels I've done even at conferences, and professionals who have been in the industry 20 and 30 years going, that was fabulous, because they even had a perception of what a person with dementia was able to do. They were like, we had no idea. And so sharing those, different stories of reality of, their perceptions of their world and how can we really help makes all the difference in the world. Just so many, and it empowers them to speak up, where a lot of them have just felt like, well, I can't do that. I'll be shunned. It's not accepted. And then, excuse my language, and then they kind of go, screw it. I'm going to say what I think, because I've done it over there, so maybe I can do it over here.
Yes, and I think it often becomes a reaction to, eventually you're going to pop.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep. And that's why I really appreciate your work and our work and the work of so many others. It's actually, I don't know, and it's a very, and really a lot of what's even going on, I feel inspired, actually. I know it's not a word that people often use these days, but I actually think a lot of what's going on now at every level, politically, culturally, in and outside. I don't put dementia over here. I think dementia, we're smack dab in the middle of a global, if you will, revolution. Now I use R, small r. That, in the sense that I think ordinary people are just going, I don't know what the heck is needed, but I'm gonna get out there. I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna do it. And I think people want to be inspired, so that they can move forward without knowing what to do.
Exactly.
And I think that's what our respective work is all about. That I want, because to me, that begins to forge a different kind of community, a different kind of environment, and who knows where it'll go. but at least relative to, I think, what you and I are talking about, the only thing that's going to contain it, if you will, is our human limitations. I mean, and yes, I don't believe that you can. I don't think individual willpower is what's going to power us through this. We all have limitations. On the other hand, and I was thinking about it, and I don't know how much time we have left, but there was an article that I've written about, that I was thinking about, and your work very much fits into this. But Lynn Castillo Harper, who's one of my favorite people and one of my favorite authors, she's the author of Unvanishing, which I believe is one of the best books about the dementia experience. She's, she is a faith leader, she's a minister. And she was invited by the New York Times to write a guest essay that she entitled, We May Soon Be Telling a Different Story About Dementia. And it was really telling a lot about who all the different kinds of cultural efforts. The film Familiar Touch, which I adore. The book Dad, You've Got Dementia by Kristen Phillips, which is also a lovely book that I urge people to read. But in a way, it was highlighting a lot of different people, many of them actually members of the coalition, who were just beginning to tell stories in a very creative way. But what I was more struck by and inspired by was the day it came out, it was the fourth most read article in the Times.
Wow.
This was maybe 2 months ago. It's not exactly a slow news time, And I was just, when Lynn told me that, I was blown away, because in part, being the fourth most read article in the New York Times is a big deal. I don't care what I have all feelings about the Times, but it's a big deal. But more importantly, it's our story. We told that, and we made it possible for that story to be. Nobody else is creating that story. It's all of us down here. And we're creating enough now that I think we're touching a nerve, because I think people want new stories. I think they want new ways forward. I think they want to create new paths. I think they want to be more, if you will, revolutionary. And I don't mean that I mean that in the very ordinary creative sense of they want to go beyond what we're told is possible. And kind of to your earlier point, and I think you have such a wonderful take on this. And again, we live in a society that's infinitely capable of marketing. But sometimes I feel like all we're handed a lot is people keep rebranding the same old thing and then trying to convince us it's new. And I think ordinary people are just smarter than that now, all over the world. Because what's interesting is Google has that thing that if you stick somebody's name in it, they'll inform you of stories that appear. Mm-hmm. So I just put in taking it to the streets, because I just wanted to see in case things got coverage. And every day now I get 2 to 10 of all the people around the world who are taking it to the streets. I mean, millions of people are every day out. So what we're talking about is, I think, something that it's what the human community is doing. Mm-hmm. And I think it could lead us in such exciting directions to just be more aware of that. Not that it makes our individual situations not what they are. It's not an either or. Mm-hmm. We still have to figure out how to create our health and our wellness and do the best we can navigating an awful system and dealing with family relations and the complexities. Actually, I saw a movie in Toronto the other day. I was up there for a Taking It to the Streets event, and it's a short film called Sugar Dumpling, and it's made by a Jamaican filmmaker, so it's unique. There's not that many films about Jamaica and dementia, and it's short. But when I met him, or when he was introducing me, he said he created the film to answer the question, how do you care for someone you don't particularly like? And I thought, I just burst out laughing, because that is such an unstated, we all grapple with that, particularly within families. And I just thought, how wonderful. I'm not making light of it, but how wonderful. Just say it out loud. It's not a big secret. We're not always in a position to just care for people we like. And You gotta figure out how. So all of that to me is just energizing. And talking to you is always energizing because I just think we're just, I don't know, there's so much being created. Um, and for now, I think we can be freed of worrying about where it's going to go. It's having an impact. So let's keep learning from that and go further, you know.
Exactly. I do want to ask you about, you are now writing for Age Buzz.
Yeah.
And you wrote an article called "We're Creating an Age of Inspiration."
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
I do. And actually, it just builds on what I was saying before, because the immediate reason I wrote it, in part, was the New York Times article.
Mm-hmm.
But more broadly, I've been thinking about the importance of being of inspiration. Because I was saying that I had been speaking to a lot of our members, very good, creative, in all areas, research, doulas, death doulas, end of life, helping professionals, just all kinds of people from around the world, Cameroon, the Caribbean, Canada, just wonderfully diverse array, India. And what I was struck by after all the conversations is everyone, no one was looking, they were looking to be inspired.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to, okay, how could we do this new? And so I have some things over that. You have something. They had some things over that. They were sharing the kinds of things they were doing. I love it. It's like lifeblood. But it occurred to me, maybe, and because and then I was kind of playing on, we've gone through the age of reason, which was, I mean, our world and our country was enormously shaped by the age of reason. It brought around profound progress and change. I mean, it was a momentous age. And with it, it carried this kind of underlying assumption that we could continue to, in a way, know our way forward. That reason, knowing, rationality was at the heart of what was going to achieve, how we were going to achieve progress. And I think we're in a moment in our world and in our culture where it's just not playing out. I think it's now, to your point before, it's a detriment. So again, it's not an either or. Things can be enormously positive, but not for always. I mean, we're a complex world. We're not in charge of where history goes. So I think we're at a moment where, and forgive me, I'm not going to remember the book, but somebody was saying, we're not going to science our way out of this mess. Mm-hmm. And that's certainly true of dementia, but increasingly it's just true of our world. We don't know what to do. It's deeply uncertain. So in some ways, I think I was just saying perhaps we could create an age of inspiration, which in a way was less bound by kind of the tyranny of diagnosis or the illusion of control and the pull, as you say, to fix what's wrong, but really to have the room and the space to be more conversational, more collaborative, more creative, to be played with and come up with some new ways forward that don't look like perhaps that we're creating our lives and whatever that looks like. Education, learning, care. And will we use some of the old? Of course. I'm not throwing out what exists. And if it's not usable, however, for us to go forward, then I don't think it's very valuable. But by no means am I saying, oh, let's just throw everything out and reinvent the wheel. No, I think it's the how. And how are we going to move forward? And I'm just arguing that it's a different tool set. So to me, that's the inspiration. I think that woman in Washington State was inspired. I don't think it's that she picked up a brochure and now brochures are helpful, but I think she was inspired by there being something new, what she was in the midst of and was part of. And whatever little ways, small ways, big ways, everyday ways, I just think we could add that much more inspiration to the mix.
Yeah, I agree. When we talk about being inspiring, there's a lot of a lot of people that inspire people because of what they're doing.
Yeah.
But and not everyone is like this, but there's a lot of people reach out to because they're inspired by them.
Yeah.
But instead of, and this is just my personal opinion, instead of mentoring them
Yes.
to raise them up, they try to make them think that they have to be in the box and do it exactly their way,
I agree.
or that they can't because it's theirs and they've done it.
I agree.
And I think
I agree.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's got to
inspiring
get
people
much
to be
to the ground.
inspiring.
Yeah.
I don't care what that looks like for you. I really don't.
Mhm.
And I think that you're right. I think it's giving people a way to then, because communities are different, situations are different, families are, but take all of this and see what you can create. And then come back. I'm happy to talk about it, or we're happy to tell them they can come to you and say, oh, well, I mean, it's a continuous process. It's not, oh, you'll get it right. No, in fact, if it's anything, it's freeing people up from thinking, if I don't get it right the first time, well, then I failed.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, you know, when you really inspire past yourself, you know, past what you've created, and open the door to say you too can do something similar to this, because none of us can own it all or serve it all. And I think we're foolish to think that. I think that's very limiting, even though the perception is it's very grand and encompassing. You know, I think when we come off like, you know, I own this, or only I can do that, or only certain people with certain criteria can do that, we're just stamping out creativity. And I think creativity is what's going to lift us and caress us to really care and be able to live fully no matter what we're living through. You know, the other thing I've always found funny is when dementia or chronic illness hits, all of a sudden the stakes have risen and everybody wants a perfect life where it was never perfect before, you know.
I agree.
And so, you know, we gotta like let them release that one. This is not the time to be looking for perfect. You know?
Oh my gosh, it's going to be so profoundly. I mean, it's so profoundly. I couldn't agree more. Well said. As I said, right on.
Yeah. Anything you guys are looking at doing different in this, because we're almost to the end of the year? Could it be 2026 or?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're having a member gatherings this week, and really we'll be talking. I just want to, in a way, always I want to hear from people, because what we do is very much informed by that. I mean, speaking for myself, I would continue to love to bring Reimagining Dementia, small r, the activity, into local communities, institutions. I mean, I'm going to be doing more traveling next year. But just to really, because again, I very much believe that, to your point, you've got to work with what's actually going on in the community. It's all going to be different. You can't do a one size fits all. I'm the expert. Here's what you do.
Well, that's where we learn so many new things. It's like, oh, I never thought of that. And then, you know, you can adapt. So it's not like, you know, what I feel from you, Mary, and your group is you don't think you have it all down and you're only the teacher. You're still a learner, and you know.
Oh, I mean, oh my gosh. I love hearing from people. It really is the joy of my life. I love hearing what people, I mean, there's so many good, creative people in the world, and they don't even often think of themselves that way, but they are, and so they inspire. Hopefully and then I think the coalition, what I will say about the coalition is I think it's a visible platform off of which you can do more, or you can go further, and that's probably what I'm most proud of, is I think it has become a home and a hub for people who, for whatever reasons, whatever this means to them, they just want to go outside those boxes you're talking about, and they're not going to find the support in their institutions, which doesn't make their institutions bad. It's just, that's not what institutions do. Institutions are institutions. You've got to go outside And that's what I've learned in all my years of being an organizer and a community builder. You also have to have, if you will, the outside where you can discover, play with things, do the unimaginable, say the things that you could never say in your, and then find a way to use that support and that energy to both move outside perhaps the institution, but also there are moments where you can create a new space that's going to look like whatever that looks like. But I feel strongly that if we're going to affect, move, create some new paths, you've got to have both. You've got to have both an inside, if you will, and an outside. And we're kind of proudly that outside. And that's
can't have a yin without a yang,
Exactly, we're the yang. So on that note, that's the headline. We're a yang.
Gosh. So what's the best way for people to reach you, or, so that if they want to get involved, or if they want to make a donation, or if they just want to learn more?
Just be in touch, and I love chatting. Well, our website is www.reimaginingdementia.com. It's a great website, by the way, even if you just want to check out some really interesting creative resources. Then the email is reimaginingdementia@gmail.com, and that's how you can reach me or through me, other members. But those are probably the two best ways.
Okay, well, sounds great. Well,
Wonderful.
Mary, thank you.
Yeah, this was fun.
And to our audience, we always ask you to be a giver of hope. Like, click and share, not because we're tracking the numbers, but because we know you have people in your sphere that need this information, and the more we can get them to feel comfortable reaching out to grab it when the time is right, it'll be life-changing for them. And maybe they'll open up to you, on how you impacted their life by sharing that information.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I'd love to hear from everyone, but no matter what, yes, keep giving hope, keep inspiring, come together in however ways you can.
Thank you, Mary.
Alrighty, thank you. Good day.
What a great conversation with Mary Fridley with Reimagining Dementia. I hope that you will go to their website and check out more, great resources. Maybe you'll want to get involved. Maybe you'll just want to snoop around. You're not ready to talk to anybody, and just check out their website, whatever works for you. And again, don't forget about all the free educational resources we have on AlzheimerSpeaks.com and Dementia Map. And one of the things I should have brought up during our conversation is the book, Betty the Bald Chicken, Lessons in How We Care. It's written as a children's book, but it's good for all ages. It can be used as a one-on-one read, or with a small group, or even, a large group. But it gets people thinking about how they care and how they want to be cared for in real simple, non-threatening terms. And you can find that again on AlzheimerSpeaks.com or on Amazon. Until next time, see you later.